So I will say that in preparing for this segment, I was very mindful that we are aiming to reduce the amount of time. We're trying to hit that like magic minute mark, right? So the thought that came up that I really wanted to get to and didn't get to in my segment is one that you came up with, is this idea of that, like, your value, you don't get a free pass to just have ideas that I think we claim as values that hurt other people, that I actually think are not values. And so what I came around to is, I think especially in the United States, we have a lot of things that we claim as values that allow us to like act as if we can put restrictions on what other people are allowed to do, when those aren't really values. Like family values, Christian values, whatever value. Like we just put values on the end of a thing and say that so I think we have a very distorted picture of what values are. And so this idea of like, who are you when no one's around, really becomes the answer to like, what do I actually believe? What do I actually want to do? Like, because nobody values hate. Nobody values harming other people. Like, that's just not in human nature. That's a created thing that we got going on in society. So I think this, A, yes, really important. Like, you don't have a free pass. And B, if you really get in touch with who you want to be when you're by yourself, and I don't know that it's like you always have to make the right choices and always have to make the right decisions. I think it's more like, did I go back into the room to turn the light off because, like, right, I say I value sustainability. I say I value protecting, and I don't know why that's always our like default go-to. Like, I care about the planet, but it's a good one. I left the light on. I recognize I left the light on as I'm walking out. Did I turn around and go turn the light off? Or like, maybe I left and even just realized like, oh man, I didn't turn the light off. Even just like having the thought of like, I really meant to turn the light off. I didn't intentionally leave the light on. And so I think that same thing plays out. Like, I don't have the intention of hurting other people. So I think it's that same kind of thing. Like, if you have thoughts where you're like, oh, I'm doing things where I'm intentionally harming other people, those are not value. Like, that's not a value. Nobody has the value of intending to hurt other people. I think we've been duped as a society. I think like the things that have been claimed as values are not actually values.
Well, and you bring up an interesting point. I was just talking about this morning, in fact. Intention versus impact. We may not have the intention of creating, of living in ways that marginalize and oppress and disempower people, but often that is the impact of some of our actions and beliefs and the spaces we live from. And so I think also it's not a free pass. Well, that's not what I intended. Well, it doesn't really matter what you intended.
It's still what happened.
Yeah. And so if we can begin to shift from this idea of intention, in spiritual communities, we talk a lot about intentions. Yeah. But if we can shift, like, I didn't mean that. Well, and shift more towards this impact. What is the impact of my life and the way I'm living my life, the way I'm interacting with others, the way I'm showing up, and wherever places that I show up, what is the impact that I am having on those around me, or on the world around me in general? And begin to look at that. And I think that's where, when we talk about activating values, that's where it kind of hits home for me. It's like, I think, we see a lot of people, like you said, that you slap values on the end of something, and then and that makes it good. I'm living for my values. Right. Oftentimes we're not living from values, we're living from fear.
Yeah.
So these situations where we oppress and marginalize, and systems and frameworks that do that, it's not from values, it's from fear. It's from often misunderstanding, often not understanding, not being curious about, or having blinders on to, well, this works for me, why shouldn't it work for everyone else? And so it really begins, I think the conversation really begins for us to even start asking the question, not only who am I when no one's looking, but what is the impact? what is the impact of my life in every place that I show up? And like I said, this is not like a call to be perfect and to show up perfect in every. We're not going to do that, so don't even try. But that doesn't mean we can't strive to hone in more and more and more on being an impact, living for our values in such a way that impacts the world in ways that uplift and empower, and honor and appreciate. I mean, all the things, right? I think that's another question too. But I love the question, who are you when no one's looking? Because yeah, right. Oftentimes we act because someone's looking, or we think that's what people want us to say, or how people want us to show up. I mean, I've done it. But yeah, just really begin to ask those questions, staying in the curiosity amidst the discomfort of maybe what some of those answers may be.
It's so interesting about intention, because it's like, it's such a, I don't know, like setting an intention is a great thing, but it seems like it's so double edged. Like, I'm going to set the intention to live by my values, but then that can't be, like you said, like that free pass to like totally bypass it. Well, I set the intention, I don't know what happened.
Well, in the medical understanding of intention is to create healing. Is the medical understanding of intention is to work in such a way to facilitate healing.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so I think that we can like kind of superimpose that on the real world understanding of intention. Like,
yeah. Because I think you're right. Like, I think
this movement towards healing.
Yeah. I think you're right, because I think we within spiritual communities have this idea of like, oh, I set an intention, and then like everything, and like yes, we can set an intention and speak our truth into the world or whatever, but then we also have to like act in alignment with that. We have to do the thing that is. We have to be that way or whatever. And so I do think like often, especially with values, it's like, well, I have the intention of valuing or acting in accordance with this specific value, but then we don't actually do that thing. We don't actually act in that way. We don't actually change anything. And it's one thing to set an intention and then miss the mark and have a negative impact on other people, and realize and go, oh, okay. And then we learn, and then we do it differently, whatever that impact is. It's something else altogether to hold an intention and see that happening and hurting other people over and over and over and over again. That's not a value. That's like that external thing, that external voice that says, this is how you should act or how you should be or whatever. That's not values. That's not values-based living. That's, I don't know what the word for that is, but it ain't it.
Well, and I think that, I mean, I'll just say it bluntly. If we are living in ways, once again, that disenfranchise, disempower, marginalize people, dare I say we're doing it wrong? I mean,
yeah.
We are. And I think that this conversation is, we talked about when we first started talking about values, the inner landscape, kind of taking a look inside first and kind of what are the things that are important to us. And so I think that continuing to remain in the curiosity, if those things, the spaces we're living from, are doing those to people around us, then we need to go back. We need to go back into the inner landscape again and see what is that. Because often it's fear, or it's unhealed, or it's these triggers from here, or it is just this default ways of being and showing up and thinking that were embedded and ingrained in us from many years ago. And often we begin living other people's values, and then we think they're our own. And then we start, oh, I'm just living from the values that I was taught. Well, these values are hurting people. And so it really begins this process of untangling our values from the values of others, or from our understanding of what our values should be, and beginning to create values that are uplifting and empowering and supporting not only ourselves individually, but collectively. If we're not making this collective impact, we're just holding on to the good that's not ours to hold on to. It is this thing that flows in and through us. And so it's for everyone.
That's the major value shift that, we're going to look back on 10, 20, I don't know, however many years from now, we're going to look back and see that this period of time, there is a major values shift from me and mine and what's owed to me to ours to
Yeah.
collective, right? For what do I do for my life that helps me, maybe helps me and my family, whatever, but it's about me, right? Like when the ship hits the sand, it's right now it's about me. Like that's how it's been. I think we're in this shift of like it's about us. It's about like how do all of these things impact all of us? And I think that in and of itself is a value shift. The fear of if I don't get mine, the fear of the other, the fear of difference, that takes somehow there's a belief that that takes away from me and mine, and so that then is the catalyst for the fear, right? So I think that's a major shift
Yeah.
that we're going through is not me and mine, but we and ours, and compassion and empathy and collaboration and all these things that like were dirty words.
It can be uncomfortable, just
Yeah.
like just like walking in a new pair of shoes. I mean, it's a
Sure.
little stiff and
Yeah.
uncomfortable because we were used to the ratty tennis shoes that we've been wearing for 2 years that have kind of molded to
The
us.
boots without any bootstraps left.
Right. And so, it's like it can
Yeah.
be uncomfortable. And that's the thing. We're so averse to discomfort. And I'm not saying we like actively seek out pain, but like we're so averse to anything that's
You
uncomfortable.
masochist, you.
I know. And so I think that we're being called, I know I am. I mean, I can speak for myself of being in some uncomfortable sort of spaces, but sitting in that discomfort and saying true to what we know to be true about us individually and collectively, and begin to move in those places. And it's uncomfortable because that's societally and the frameworks that we have been born into not all don't always support that. And so as we begin to try to shift some frameworks and shift ways of being within the maybe even the old frameworks that we have, shifting our own way of being, it's uncomfortable. But we know that that's where growth happens, right? Right when that discomfort meets where you just don't think you can do it anymore, then boom, this expansion of things.
Yeah.
And so collectively, if we can hang in the discomfort together,
Just a little longer.
I think that
A
we are
little bit
going to
longer.
see some really massive transformative changes in our world.
So I don't know about you, but I am excited for what is possible, right? Kind of braving the storm for just a little bit, leaning into discomfort when it's necessary. And I really think we're going to change how we as humanity show up. Thank you for tuning in and watching with us. There are so many opportunities for you to tune in throughout the week if you're looking for more. There are plenty of these videos, at least 137 episodes of this show on YouTube. There are events coming up. You can check them all out at soulevolutioncollaborative.org/events. Think about joining in on Thursday nights, The Gathering, a small group conversation of like-minded individuals who are looking to take this topic just a little bit deeper, or maybe a lot deeper, and how it plays out in our lives. So again, thanks for tuning in. Do check out the upcoming events for Soul Evolution Collaborative. And if we don't see you on Thursday, we'll see you right here next week at Truth Be Told 2.0.